This is Helping with Happiness, episode number 145. Today I get to chat with 4 amazing bloggers from the Dallas Metroplex, and we're talking all about our experiences during the deep Texas freeze, what it was like for each of them, all their different experiences. Some had no water, some had floods, some had no power. It was just crazy. You get to hear about their personal hardship, the strength building experiences, the tender mercies in their lives, and the opportunities to serve and band together. I love that this is airing the week of International Women's Day because this episode truly shows what women are made of. Hi, I'm Hillary Hess, and you're listening to Helping of Happiness. I am a crazy mom of 7 kids who loves to build memories through eating delicious family recipes and going on adventures with my family. On this podcast, you'll be introduced to light-filled people and ideas that inspire me to be a better mom and help me bring family closer together and closer to Jesus Christ. What a treat to have my dear blogger friends from the Dallas-Fort Worth area over on our podcast today. We are all going to talk about this big Texas freeze that came in here a couple of weeks ago. We are from all different parts of the Metroplex, some from the north, some from the west, some from the east and the south. And so I think this is a really good little painted picture of what it maybe was like in different areas. So let me introduce our friends. First off, we have Jamie. Jamie, can you say hello and introduce yourself a little bit?
I'm Jamie Harper. I blog at Fly by the Seat of Our Pants, and I fly standby around the country with my 4 kids. And I'm also on Instagram by Fly by the Seat of Our Pants.
And we had Jamie on our podcast before talking about her flying adventures and also owning an Airbnb and what that's all about. Hey, Roselle, let's say hi to you. Roselle was on our podcast during the summer when Black Lives Matter was going crazy, and we talked about cancel culture a little bit. Roselle, say hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Tell us about your blog and what you do.
So I'm Roselle at DFW Family, blog about family fun in the city and just looking for wholesome activities.
Awesome. And then I have another couple new friends to introduce you today that I'm super happy that you get to hear from. Madi, will you tell us about your blog?
Hi, I'm Madi. I blog about finding family fun in the city and also seeking outdoor adventure. My Instagram handle is my name. It's Madi Scott, and I blog at crosswalksandcairns.com.
And then Melissa, tell us about you and your family.
Yeah, I'm Melissa Jackson. You can find me at CasaJackson_ on Instagram. I'm a motherhood in DFW, blogger, content creator. I talk about things that are going on in my motherhood journey, but also a lot of family-friendly things that I do in DFW with my kids and family.
So we thought we would go through the week of the events of when the freeze came in, and then afterwards a little bit. Big freeze happened the weekend of Valentine's Day, so maybe just a couple days before that. So Thursday, February 11th was when for us school was canceled and there started to be ice on the roads, and there was that crazy pileup of 100 cars in Fort Worth. What were you guys doing anything to prepare at that time? Where were your minds at? What was happening with you guys at that point?
Saw Jamie that night.
Me and
Jamie we went to an event at a hotel, and the first way that I was impacted was I know a lot of people who were supposed to be at the event decided not to go because they didn't want to be on the roads. I decided to drive to the event at the hotel, but last minute I booked a night at the hotel instead of I was planning on just coming back home after the event, but I booked a night at the hotel just so I wouldn't have to drive home on the icy roads.
Thank you, Madi. And then Jamie.
In our area, it really was nice weather. It was kind of like bizarre to hear that there was bad weather elsewhere. We had sun but we had our home rented on Airbnb, and our guests contacted us and said, "Hey, there's a 100-car pileup on the road we're taking to come up to your house. Can we cancel?" And we told them that they could, but 24 hours later, they decided they were going to come anyway. And so since our home was rented, we had a vacation planned. And so we kind of fled the state, and I was happy about leaving, but we also thought we would get home before the big storm hit.
And then Melissa,
So, Fort Worth is pretty far from Frisco, so our weather wasn't bad at all when that happened. It was, like Jamie said, there was a lot of sun. Yeah, I just remember, of course, that was Valentine's Day weekend, so I'm sure everyone was making fun plans. But I went to Costco that morning, and typically it's not crazy, but a combination of people preparing for really bad weather as well as Valentine's Day weekend, it was just swamped. Like everyone was grabbing everything. So I just remember it kind of like people were in a little bit of a panic mode already. And this was, I believe it was Saturday.
How about you,
Yeah,
Roselle?
I can agree with Melissa. We were actually doing a Costco run, just randomly picking up everyday essentials. And my daughter takes cheer in Carrollton, and we live in Forney, which is about an hour drive. And her coach was like, "Hey, it's up to you if you want to come or not." But we decided to stay just to be safe because of what we heard about that pileup. So for us in Forney, the weather was pretty mild, but we did our little Costco run just to like prepare for something big.
Okay. And that was the day we were worried about our furnace because we'd had a couple of friends whose furnaces were kind of on the fritz and even a couple who's ended up going out. So we were covering our windows with blankets that were really drafty and shutting the heating vents to our kids' rooms. And we moved them all in the game room upstairs because the heat just kind of gets trapped up there it's just like super toasty and warm up there. Did you guys put your covers on all your outdoor spigots and stuff like that?
Did that? Yeah.
Yeah, we went and got some, a couple of, maybe it was even earlier in the week. I heard it was going to freeze, and my husband said he saw a big pile of them at Home Depot, and I thought, those are not going to stay. I'm going to go today and get them. And I was so glad because they were almost gone, and that was like Wednesday or Thursday before the storm hit. So that was such a blessing. And I grabbed a couple extra, which ended up being really helpful to some friends of ours that didn't have any. So I was so glad that we did that. So, okay, let's hit Valentine's Day, which was the day that it all kind of hit on Sunday. Where were you guys at and what was happening? Maddie, go ahead.
We had actually planned to go out of town that weekend and meet some friends in Waco. I have some friends in Houston, and we were just going to meet halfway at an Airbnb. And a few days before, my friend from Houston was saying she didn't want to drive on the roads and she wanted to cancel the trip or postpone it. And I felt fine about going. I was like, we can just kind of hunker down together, play, like all our kids can play together inside. But she was the one that kind of made the call and said, no, I'm not going. And it turns out that weekend, my in-laws were coming to town to surprise us. I didn't know that my in-laws were even coming. So my mother-in-law called and said, oh, shoot, I heard you're going to Waco this weekend. We are actually coming to visit you guys. How long are you going to be? When are you going to be gone? And I said, oh, well, good news is we just canceled our Waco trip. So we will be around when you guys are in town, thankfully. Bad news is it's not going to be a fun weekend for you guys to be in Dallas. We're not going to Waco, but we're not going anywhere. We're literally staying inside the whole time that you're here. So
having company when all of this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, just so crazy.
Anyways, so they showed up Friday night is when they
showed up. So it was before the I guess it froze that Wednesday night, I guess, going into Thursday, because the roads were all frozen in Fort Worth area on that Thursday morning. And so they flew in right the day after that then. It was kind of confusing, the timeline, because it froze like a few different times. So it kind of goes in waves a little bit. Jamie, you guys were out of state, right?
So yes, we were in Palm Springs and it was beautiful weather, and we were hearing tidbits from home, but we really didn't prepare like you guys did. I mean, we eat all of our food when we leave for Airbnb. So we had no food left. We hadn't done anything, and we had strangers in our house, but at least we thought, well, they're using the water and the home is taken care of while they were there, but we were not prepared.
Let's go Monday morning. We woke up to not having any power that morning. It had been out for 7 to 8 hours. Pretty much any meat or anything like that in the fridge was bad because, the temperatures weren't safe anymore. Luckily, I had on emergency preparedness gal, and I interviewed her like in December, so I knew about fridge temperatures and all, after 4 hours, it's really getting kind of dicey with your food in there. So I knew those kinds of things, and just happened that that episode aired the week of the freeze, which was not even planned. So that was crazy. So I took that as a message. I need to be way more prepared if the Lord's talking to me. I was glad that we had put all the kids in the game room because their bedrooms were just freezing with no heat to reach those exterior rooms and the drafty windows. So what were you guys like on Monday?
Yeah, for us, we were like slept through the night, no problem. We woke up around 3 a.m. We felt something was different. Like our house was getting colder and colder. We're like, what's happening here? And then we realized that our power went out and our house temperature dropped to like 58 degrees. And we're like, this is not normal. So then we jumped up and my neighbor texted me around 4 a.m. and asked me, do I have water? I'm like, we have no water here.
Oh my goodness.
So when she said that, we were just like, okay, let's just get up. So we woke up super early. We put the kids all in one room. We put all the blankets on everyone just to keep ourselves warm. And we just started to get into like that mode. We have to get stuff done because this is bad. So that was our mindset. Let's start figuring out what we need to do because we need to go get through this.
So did you guys have a fireplace or anything to warm up your house, or were you
Had no fireplace, nothing. So we're already making a plan for our next home, what we need to have in our next home.
Anybody else? What else is going on for you guys on Monday?
When we woke up, we had power, but we could tell that the power had been off, and we had the rolling blackouts. But we got pretty lucky. Our house stayed warm even with the rolling blackouts. Our fridge stayed cold, so even the lack of power was definitely inconvenient, but we felt pretty lucky that we were warm and our food was cold.
What about you, Melissa? What was happening with you guys?
In my particular part of Frisco, we didn't have any power outages. We didn't have any water cut off or anything like that. Tons of friends, of course, all throughout Frisco. And a lot of them had experienced not having power for hours, like days, that we found out later on. But they didn't have water, they didn't have power, and they were just a few minutes from where I was located.
We noticed that in our area too. It was really weird how some neighborhoods or even part of neighborhoods had power and water and other ones didn't. If you were hooked up to where a fire station would be or a school or some kind of hospital, you generally had your power the whole time. But if you weren't, it was just this rolling game of all kinds of stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jamie, is Monday when you guys finally got a flight home, or when did you get in?
So as soon as Dallas knew that a snowstorm was hitting, they canceled all the Sunday night flights. So we knew ahead of time that our flight was going to be dicey, if not canceled. And so we were supposed to fly home Monday morning, and we woke up Monday morning. Our fire alarm went off at our hotel at 4 a.m. So we were up at 4 and didn't go back to sleep, but it was okay because we had an early 6 o'clock flight. So we drove to the airport, and 2 minutes from the airport, we got a text that our flight had been canceled. We fly standby, which means canceled flights fills up all the other flights. So we ended up flying to Phoenix and back to San Diego because there's a lot more options from San Diego. And the next morning we flew home from San Diego. So Monday morning, and I was a mess. I was terrified to fly home because I was hearing all of these stories that what you guys were going through. No food, no water, no heat, no way to cook food. And we got a notice that our power was out. And just a little backstory, we had a rat in our minivan. We have 4 children. And so we had only one car, and it's an electric car. We have a Tesla, and it only runs on electricity. So if you don't have electricity, you cannot drive. And I was worried about getting us home in one car in the Tesla, and I didn't know what the roads were like. And I just cried the whole flight home because I was so scared to come home. I just wanted to stay in California. And if it had been my choice, I would have stayed. But my husband wanted to check on the house and wanted to get the faucets dripping and check on the pipes. And also he thought that if we didn't get home, that the flights would completely fill up at the end of the week. And because we fly standby, we have to get on flights when they're open. So we headed home, and the roads actually looked pretty good. I mean, it was like 10 degrees, but the sun was shining. And so there was snow melting, and we're from Utah, so we were comfortable driving in it. And we were able to get home. The power was out all day long. As soon as we walked in the door, the power was still out. 30 seconds later, it turned on. So I just started making dinner like a mad woman. We didn't unpack the car. It was just like, make dinner. That's all I need to do. And we sat down to dinner an hour and a half later, and the power went off. So God said, welcome home. Here's a little bit of heat, make some dinner for your family. And it was like, it's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
Such a tender mercy. Roselle, tell me, what does it look like when you don't have water? What creative things were you doing? Because I saw on your social that you're melting snow to flush toilet.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
That was all my husband's thinking. I was telling him, I'm like, thank God I married a Eagle Scout, because he was just function. So he went out and he just started getting buckets of snow, and we melted on the stove when we had power, because it was rolling blackout.
So you guys have an electric stove, so it wasn't working. Okay.
So we'll get power for like 20 minutes and we're like, hurry, let's get melting the snow. So we melted snow and we used that to flush our toilets. But we stayed in contact with our neighbor, and she would just, she had water for a little bit of time before it froze again. So we would go to her house, grab water. But for the most part, we were melting snow to like flush the toilets.
Gosh, that is so crazy. Let's go into Tuesday. What was Tuesday like? Melissa, is this when your stuff started getting a little crazy?
Yeah, so Tuesday's when it all fell apart for us.
The irony that we just happen to have episodes air with Plan for Awesome all about emergency preparedness during the Texas deep freeze disaster and the week after is not lost on me. I saw it as a blaring message to me from God that me and my family need to get more prepared. Thankfully, Melanie from Plan for Awesome has some easy to follow ebooks and guides to hold our hand step by step through preparing our homes for emergencies and guiding us through our 72-hour kits. With her help, I've already begun purchasing supplies like fire ladders, fridge and freezer thermometers, and a gas shutoff tool to get even more better prepared. Today, we want you to join us, and I have a coupon code for you to make it even easier. You can get 25% off anything in the Plan for Awesome shop. All you have to do is put in code HAPPY25, that's capital HAPPY 25, in the checkout, and you can have 25% off anything in the shop.
Like I said, we had water and power the entire time, and our apartment complex was just saying, okay, make sure you're dripping your pipes, so it doesn't freeze. And so we were making sure to do that. And then I think it was around 5 o'clock. My husband was working from home, and when your pipes break or burst, whatever, you can hear it. It's like this. It's like, it sounds like, maybe I would imagine like an iceberg breaking kind of a sound. And my husband knew exactly what it was. He's like, our neighbor's pipes just burst. So all of a sudden water starts coming like a rain. Like, it was just a terrible feeling, seeing your house start to flood. But what happened was it was flooding my neighbor's home, and it was flooding his kids' rooms. And so he hurried and called 911. I just froze, because when that happens in an apartment unit in your complex, a blaring alarm goes off, so loud that you can't even think. And so I just knew, okay, grab the kids, and it's freezing outside, right? So we put them in our car because they're just crying and they don't know why this alarm is going off. And one of our neighbors walked by, and she's like, are you okay? And she's like, is your house okay? Is it flooding? I'm like, yeah, it's flooding. She's like, I'll go find help. So she was out walking her dog, so she went and found help. And then our other neighbor called 911, and the fire department came out, and they shut off the water, and they kind of let us know if we could stay or whatever about the situation. And so when they came in the house, and they're like, okay, so what happened was the sprinkler system busted. So it wasn't even like our pipes or the neighbor's pipe, it was the sprinkler system. And so they shut it off, and they're like, okay. And so we were trying to figure out what we were going to do. We were putting towels everywhere because we didn't want more damage to spread throughout the unit. Luckily for us, our kids' room was perfectly fine, and the living room was fine. So a hotel was not an option, at all, because all these people were out of power and out of water. So the earliest we could get a hotel was Saturday. So this happened Tuesday, and Saturday was the earliest when we could get a hotel. So we kind of just slept in our living room and just booked the earliest hotel we could find. Yeah, and we try to work with our insurance, but of course, when a natural disaster happens, they're super booked as well. So we didn't even talk to an adjuster from our insurance until over a week later, I would say, is when they finally kind of assigned a specific person to us. So, and we're still living at a hotel right now. So that's not been too fun. But yeah, that's kind of what happened for us on Tuesday, was kind of just flooded our unit.
So crazy. So horrible. And then Maddie, you had something. I could see you coming on.
We keep talking about we had no food and no water. And I don't know if we ever clarified that it wasn't because we couldn't go get some. It was because all the stores were legitimately closed. There was nowhere to go. Like there was no
all the restaurants, all the fast food, everything.
So if you didn't have anything in your house, you didn't have anything. You kind of had to rely on neighbors. There was a lot of neighbors helping neighbors, which was pretty cool. But again, a lot of people who did have food lost the food because they lost power in their fridge. So I don't know if we made that clear that the no food, no water was a problem because we couldn't go get any.
Yeah. And the water was frozen. Yeah. It's a big problem.
And even if a grocery store was open, the roads were horrible. They were absolutely, I think all of us here have lived in a place with snow before, and we're used to driving in it, but I've never lived in a place so unprepared for this type of
There's
disaster.
Just no plows at all.
It never happened. So there's really not a need for them to have like plows and all these things. And so what made it really tricky was, one, if you even could get to a grocery store safely, everything was already gone. It was like COVID, part 2, where the grocery stores are completely empty of the food. But there was still toilet paper, so.
I know, but no milk, nothing fresh was there, at least at ours. No eggs, no milk, no meat, all that there was plenty. No chips. That was another funny thing to see gone. Everyone was grabbing chips or any like easy thing to eat that you wouldn't need to cook up.
Oh, what was open? I think we went I don't remember if it was Monday or Tuesday that we went, but we drove to Buc-ee's. We drove 20 minutes to a Buc-ee's and it was open, and we all got fountain drinks and snacks. And I think we got lunch there. So thank goodness for Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee's saved the day. I love it.
I think we helped a few people out of the Buc-ee's parking lot that didn't know how to get out of their parking space in snow, but a lot of people were there and I'm glad they were open.
Well, and that's something to think about too, is that even the store parking lots were insane because they don't have snow removal. So it was just a mess, when you go somewhere mountainous or where they usually have snow, they usually are clearing those parking lots so you can actually at least get in and out. But that was so crazy. Roselle, were you?
That's funny when you said that we don't have any snow plows or anything to like clear out roads or parking lots. We went to Buc-ee's as well. We saw Maddie's. I was like, we need to just go there and get something to eat that's hot. But we saw people with brooms, like literally brooms, pushing snow from the entrance so people can actually walk through there safely. So they got creative here, very creative.
I know. We saw, like those plastic container, the lids that go on your underbed box. We saw a lot of people trying to shovel walks with those kinds of things. Or we were trying to shovel walks with just a regular dirt shovel, because at least it was something so that it wasn't quite so icy.
Yep, that's what we used, a garden shovel.
That was us too.
Challenge where you boiled the water if you had power, and you like threw it up in the air and it would freeze and make snow. I don't know if you guys saw that, but that was everywhere.
Yeah, we did that. That was one of our first.
I think Maddie did that too.
We did the food coloring the snow. Did you guys see that one too, where the kids are painting with the food coloring on the big
we painted snow too. And that was great because the kids wanted to play in the snow, and they could do that without being cold. We just
could do it inside because everyone was too cold to go out because it was so awful.
I liked how creative people got with sledding. We actually bought a sled 4 years ago on clearance in Utah and brought it home, and it has not been touched. And so the snow came out, we grabbed our sled. We had a bunch of kids. So we had cookie sheets, skim boards, snow boogie boards, and then that one sled.
Funny how many people I saw. I probably saw 100 people sledding over those few days, and I think I saw maybe 2 sleds.
It was like
People were sitting on
floaties.
everything else. We used boogie boards. There was cardboard boxes, Tupperware boxes, laundry bins, anything you can think of to get you down a hill.
Mm-hmm.
Another major part of our Snowmageddon story that will be affecting us for quite some time was that our chapel was destroyed. So due to some pipes that were bursting and water damage throughout the church, it was so bad. So between COVID and now Snowvid, we have had to rely on ourselves to teach our children Sunday school at home. We were so grateful to discover Enoch Studies. Enoch Studies provides weekly activities and printables to supplement Come Follow Me home and church curriculum, and they have resources not only for kids, but for teens, and the whole family can really enjoy it. We've really loved using their digital downloads, but are super excited about their new snail mail option that is now coming out, where they are mailing out these printables in the mail, so it's one more step that you don't even have to worry about. You don't even have to print it at home. So we've got a coupon code for you, so you can get 30% off anything in the Enoch Studies shop. That coupon code is capital HAPPY 30 exclamation point. So capital Happy 30 exclamation point will get you 30% off anything in the shop. So go use that coupon and enjoy having to not worry about doing your Sunday school at home with any thinking. You just follow the guide. Jamie, I want to hear about Tuesday morning, because you just opened your arms, and I love the way that you just embraced service as a way of getting through all of this disaster.
We had power on and off through the night, but we contacted some friends and they hadn't had power at all since Monday morning at like 5 a.m. We said, come over for breakfast. And as we're cooking breakfast, we were making eggs. They were all cracked in the pan and the power went off. I was like, darn it, they're halfway cooked. Came back on 20 minutes later. So we like just whipped everything out as fast as we could and started cooking again. They were at our house. They stayed all through the morning. And then they got a notice that said, if you don't have power yet, you will not get power again until Thursday. So that was Tuesday morning. And so we just said, you guys are welcome to stay. And they went home, grabbed their stuff. They stayed with us. So they had 4 kids. We have 4 kids. So it was a party of 12 at our house. And one of our toilets, the water to come into the tank, that line had frozen. And so we had 2 toilets for the 12 of us. But at least we had heat. And they brought, I said before, we didn't have much food, but they brought all their food over to our house. And so it was like a win-win for us. And then we just made food for the kids while the kids played, and the kids loved it.
So those little tender mercies gathering together actually helped both of you out so much in that instance. What were some of the hardest things for you guys going through it?
My husband, he's an accountant, and this is the busy season for accountants with the April 15th deadline. He was really stressed on Monday trying to work in 15-minute increments between the power outages. And it's like by the time you get everything rebooted, the power was shutting off again, and he just couldn't take a break from work. So that was a struggle, that he was stressed and not getting work done. We ended up having a friend reach out to us and say, hey, do you guys need anything? We have power. And my husband said, actually, can I come work at your house? So Gavin spent the week working at a friend's house. So that was a tender mercy. That was very nice. Monday was stressful, but the rest of the week he was able to go work over at a friend's.
And then you have your in-laws in town.
Yeah.
And were you feeling so sick? Because you're pregnant, and I know you've been super sick.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my in-laws coming to town, I felt very bad for them. Like, I felt very disappointed for them that they chose, of all weekends to come visit us, that they chose the weekend that we couldn't go anywhere, do anything. They came out wanting to see my son play. He had a hockey game and a basketball game scheduled for that weekend that they were in town. And that's one of the main reasons they wanted to come, and they weren't able to see those games. And so I just felt really bad that they were there, but I am so grateful that they were there. It was such a blessing for me because, like I just said, my husband was stressed with work and then ended up leaving to do his work. I get really bad morning sickness being pregnant. I spend a lot more time on the couch than I would like to admit, or that I would like to. And my kindergartner, his school was canceled. So
I would have probably been a wreck if it was just me not feeling well, trying to take care of my boys, not being able to do much outside, not really having power inside. It was so nice to have grandparents in town to help keep my kids entertained and make the best of the situation and keep things light and fun.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my takeaways was a little bit of survivor's guilt because the power outages were totally random. You know, some people had nothing. I mean, it's interesting, even in this group, we had one with no water, one with no power, one with a flood. And Hillary, it sounds like you had a lot more outages than we did. We basically had power the whole time, except that one day that we were gone. So there was a lot of like, why do we get power and they don't? And there was a lot of like, I have a nice warm house. And I felt like, should we lower the temperature in order to suffer with the rest of the state? Or, should we be comfortable? We were trying to conserve energy and we were trying to conserve water and we were trying to help out. But really, did it make a difference if we lowered our temperature 5 degrees for Madi? Would she get power if we did that? I don't know. But there was a little bit of like, we have a warm house and there are people out there that are freezing. And I kept trying to invite people I knew and let people know they were welcome to come. And we did have that one family with us, but I just felt like there's options out here. We have food and water and heat. And then there's other people down the street that are struggling. And I think also my kids had such a fun time with their friends living with us that they didn't even know that it was a week of terror for some people. And I mean, in some ways, I'm glad we shielded them from that. But in another way, it's like they don't really have empathy for the hardships that other people went through because there was no hardship for them. They showed up for breakfast and then they played until lunch and then they showed up for dinner and there was really nothing to be afraid of. And I know that many people didn't have that experience and it feels like why did we get a lucky experience and other people didn't?
Right. And I think for me, my terror was just the lack of water. We had no water for 4 days. And that was the most scariest feeling that I thought I would never experience. I'm from Miami and we've gone through hurricanes and I've never been out of water or power for more than a day. So just experiencing the lack of water was very terrifying. But I do commend Madi for being so helpful. And we're like neighbors. We're only like, 10 minutes apart, 15 minutes away from each other, opening her home to us. And I really appreciate that. But I felt like we needed to stay in case something happened. What we're going to do to protect our home, because we heard of people pipes bursting and whatnot. So for us, it was just water, how important it was for us to not have it. But when we got it, it was just the most exciting thing to see water coming out of your pipes.
Oh, I can't imagine going without water for that long. It's like, come up here, get water. But I mean, the roads are still bad. And I totally get what you mean about not wanting to leave your house because you never knew if you're going to be in a situation like Melissa was, where, especially in a home where you're the one that's going to have to shut off the water, not like an apartment complex where you probably don't even know where that shut off is. But
exactly.
It was like, man, we just got to hunker down and kind of protect. And you never knew it was coming next because we would go a couple of days of power and then ours would be all over the place again. So that for me was some of the anxiety, is not knowing how long is the power going to stay? When is it going to go off again? Just the unknown was probably the hardest part for us.
It really was for us, especially having the rolling blackouts. Like we were in a high for 20 minutes and then that anxiety would hit that the power would go off. So it was like really, you're very on high pressure, intense mode the whole time, not knowing if it's going to stay longer or shorter. So I think was the buildup, was the anxiety of that was really hard not for me, but for my kids too.
Yes, I know. It was like, kids, run around, go do this, go do that. At least that's how I felt. It was when the power was on, it was rush around and do something. And then when the power was off, you were just kind of waiting, and the waiting was anxious in a different way than the action when the power. So was, I don't know. For me, I mean, I was stressed, but I didn't realize how stressed I really was until it was over. That weekend after, we were just toast. Me and my husband were so exhausted. We did not hardly do anything that Saturday. We just were like, woof. It took a physical toll on our bodies that we didn't realize it was taking in the moment.
Well, and what was interesting, it was almost like a pregnancy where there's an end. We could see the forecast. We knew that it was going to be 70 degrees on Sunday, which was like unfathomable when you're like
when it was literally almost an 80-degree difference, because it was 1 degree on, earlier in the week. Crazy.
Not a wind chill. I think it was down to like -16. Feels like.
Yeah.
But so you could see like, hey, this is going to end. But how will it end? Will our pipes burst? Will our house be flooded? And I think it's also interesting that even when we had power, we didn't have cell service or Wi-Fi most of some of the time. And so it was like, what's working and what's not working. And the kids were all set up to do online school. And so we all assumed we would be doing online school, which was a huge benefit of COVID. But then we couldn't even do online school because who knows which kid has power or Wi-Fi and which doesn't. So there was a total equity in that. And so they just canceled school completely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was crazy for us too. And they were saying everyone should try to save their power. And so they didn't want everyone hopping on their devices and using their power it was crazy. Yeah. So then it's like, okay, we're all stuck trapped in our home for a week. I mean, I can send them out for 10 minutes out in the snow if my power happens to be on so that I can warm the kids up when they come back in. But if the power's not on, I'm not letting anybody open a door or leave the house or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little bit of cabin fever for me too. It was like, here I've got to entertain all these kids and I'm stressed out. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was definitely humbling to see like, oh man, I guess quarantine could get a lot worse. So there was that meme that was like 2020, learn to stay home. 2021, same thing, but this time let's test your survivor skills. And I'm like, let's take away their water, let's take away their power, let's take away their road system and restaurants and Chick-fil-A, and all of that was just taken away. And I was like, well, can't even drive to Target.
Fighting for toilet paper, and that week we're all fighting for water and we're burning toilet paper to stay warm.
Exactly.
Well, I think for me, the biggest takeaway was, I mean, you can be as prepared as you can. Because, like, I honestly felt like we were so prepared. And then, something that's completely out of our control happens. Like, we had firewood, we had full gas in our car, we dripped our pipes, we, had emergency battery if we needed to plug in or charge our phones or whatever. But I think you could do everything right and things still happen, and you gotta kind of figure out some ways to cope. I'm still learning that. I still, I know you guys were talking about there's an end in sight. For us, there's not an end in sight right now. Like, we have people still taking measurements for our unit, and they came from Kentucky. Like, they're sending people from all over. Like, at our hotel right now, there's people from Illinois, and there's so many contractors, construction workers, plumbers that are still in the hotels along with us. And so I think it's definitely been a humbling experience for me, because I'm that type of personality that's like, if I'm in a bad situation, I'm going to get myself out of a bad situation. There is always a way for me to help myself. And in this particular situation where I rely so much on other people and like their actions, it's been kind of hard for me to kind of accept that, like, okay, I guess I can't be the boss. I mean, I can do certain things, we're staying in our hotel and maybe we'll go stay with family if the stars align or whatever. But it's also really hard to do that, with little kids and one that's allergic to everything. So just going anywhere can be a little tricky for us as well. So.
Yeah, that is really hard. What about you, other girls? Are there any takeaways that you've had from this experience that you would have for future possible disasters?
I think for us, we just started making a list. Like when we had our rolling blackouts, of course, when the power was on, we frantically cooked or watched TV or just do things to get our mind off of the stress. But when the power was off, we literally just started taking notes of what to do to improve. Like Melissa said, the natural disaster can come and take away even the things you feel like you're prepared for can be wiped out as well. So we just started taking a mental list and just write down what we can do to improve. Like we didn't even drip our pipes. We didn't even think about that, or fill our bathtub with water, stuff like that. So we just started doing inventory, and my husband made it a point to know our neighbors. we just moved into our new development, and we know maybe 50% of the neighbors in our neighborhood. And he just said, hey, we need to know the people that live around us, because we never know if they need our help or vice versa. So we were just trying to build a community in our own neighborhood. But yeah, so that's all we've been doing that, and just being prepared with like generators or sleeping bags or just stuff like that, just making a mental note about what we can do to move forward, and buying a lot of water, buying lots and lots of water.
Having lots of water on hand. That is super important. We have a lot of what we bought, like those big blue containers, years ago, and we've been storing them in our garage, but it's been so long since we rotated that water. I didn't really want to have to go to all the trouble to clean it. So we got an advisory, it was Tuesday night, that they were possibly shutting off the water in our city that night. And so we were filling up every plastic container and Tupperware and jar, anything that we could find in case it went out. It didn't end up going out for us. And so I now still have all of this water hanging around. So we've been taking lots of baths and pouring half of that water in there and then adding the hot. I was also grateful because we had some friends, a coworker of my husband's in Frisco, who was out of water for days. So he ended up doing a run and bringing water up there. And love that you said getting to know your neighbors, because that was a huge thing, was checking in with our neighbors and just seeing how everyone was doing. I think it all kind of kept us going, that we knew that there was someone else going through it. And I don't know, there was just something about that community. And I even feel like all of us together have bonded in a way over this event that people that didn't experience this crazy Snowmageddon or Dalaska or whatever everybody's hashtagging it, right, won't really kind of understand. But anyway, that's kind of for us. Is there anything that you would like to share that we haven't touched on, or anything that you feel like you would want to do differently or have ready for the future? Like Roselle was saying, getting the water and the sleeping bags.
I think it's important to have some meals that you can do without any heat or water.
Yes.
Pop open a can and eat it. So I could only think of peanut butter and jelly, and we didn't have any bread, or cereal and milk, but also milk was, unless you had some powdered milk, but then you need water. I mean, just it compounds, right? Like everything, it was like, we can't do that because of this. We can't do that because anyway, just have some meals. I think that's why the chips were gone, right?
Oh yeah, the chips are totally gone. Yeah.
Yeah, just having some meals you can have that. I mean, we like stock up our freezer with all these meals we can make notice, but that doesn't help if you don't have heat.
Exactly.
So camping stove with the propane tank or
your grills.
And we have a Traeger grill, but also doesn't work without electricity.
Yeah, that's one thing we talked about, Jamie, is like buying meals like soups or canned items that you think are good, but we're going to start buying that and eating it as a family to see if we really like those type of meals. Then if something happens, like, oh, we really like this type of meals, let's buy more of this in a variety of packets. But if you just buy soups and you never eat that soup, when it's time to eat it, you're not going to want to eat that soup. So just look at different canned items that you can just start incorporating in your meals throughout the year and see what's your favorite, and just have that as one of your staples that's ready to eat quick meals, because we learned.
I really like that you said that, make sure that you like it, because I noticed that during that whole time, we were just looking to comfort meals. That's what we wanted to eat. It was like, I don't care about a salad right now. I want something that is just going to be comforting and warm. We luckily have a gas stove, so when our power was out, at least we could warm something up on the stove. But who knows, another disaster, maybe gas would be off as well as electricity. I mean, you just don't know, right? But yeah, I really think, and Jamie, when you were saying, because we talked about this a little bit before, meals that you can do without having to heat them up, you really got my brain going. So like opening up a can of refried beans with some chips, or like tuna with crackers, or at least something that would fill you up, some variety. So I'm really glad. I think I'm going to get some kind of little food post ready. We'll have to have some ideas about all of this. After realizing the importance of having food that is ready to go in my family in the kitchen pantry, I got a list together of 30 meals and snacks using shelf-stable food. And this is all available in my freebie resource library. That's where I keep all my free printables and meal guides and 3 weeks of dinner ideas and meal planning kits and all the different things that I've got. So go to the show notes. You'll see a link there on helpingofhappiness.com where you can put in your email, and then you'll get an email that has the password so you can access everything in that freebie resource library, including those 30 meals and snacks that are using the shelf stable food.
So something that I feel like I need to prepare better with is making things like waterproof, because we had a lot of things like our 72-hour kit, our food storage was like under our bed because we just like never used that, right? And so when our room flooded, that kind of got destroyed. And so having things in an area or in some type of, I don't know, Tupperware or a big plastic container that if water does, it's not going to penetrate your sleeping bags. It's not going to penetrate your flashlights and your masks and things like that that are in there. Roselle mentioned this, but having wipes and, you know, because you can't take showers if you want to stay fresh, have wipes. Like, obviously I have babies in my home still. And so like, that's not a problem, but other people that don't have young ones might not have wipes. And we were trying to conserve water for others. Like we never, didn't have water, but so having paper products on hand, not for just those days where you don't want to do dishes, but for also if something like this happens where you're trying to conserve water, that you're not going to just have a big pile of dirty dishes at the end of all this. And so
I agree. That was one of my things, stock up on paper plates, because it was awful having piles of dirty dishes in the sink with no water. So yeah.
What were some other things on your list, Roselle, as you were making a list? Do you have any that come to the top of your head?
Yeah, so we put generator, and we're actually just researching all kinds of generators. There's loud ones, there's ones that don't make noise. Like, it's just a lot. What do you want to power in your home when your power goes out? So just researching generators is really important for us. Paper products, like Mrs. said, wipes. We're going to buy those 5-gallon water jugs and just keep 3 on hand, but rotate it continuously. So cook with that water or drink that water. So we're just going to continue keeping those big 5-gallon water jugs in our home. So yeah, stuff like that.
Those are great.
I think one thing that's interesting, my sister-in-law is down in Houston and they lost their home in the Hurricane Harvey flood. It's interesting because what they did to prepare was they made a bunch of casseroles and stocked up on food and they were ready to go. And then what happened is they lost their house, and casseroles were like not helpful at the time. And so sometimes it's like you can do as much as you can to prepare. Like it sounds like Melissa has a lot of food storage and 72-hour kits, but she didn't anticipate the disaster that happened for her. And so, you know, I think it's important to prepare, but also there's an element of you just got to flow with it, because being prepared doesn't mean you're going to be ready for that thing. Like Hillary said, next time it could be the gas. And that could be the issue. And now we don't have heaters, and then people with electric ACs now are housing the people that had gas ACs, you know, right. Or heaters. And so anyway, it is important to be prepared, but there's an element of like, you just gotta like relax into it, because you cannot know ahead of time what it is that's going to happen.
I love it. Oh, okay. Anything else? Anybody? Anything else? That was...
Something that we haven't really touched on is I like to get through things by making the most of it and trying to have some fun and having some humor. And in doing that, we need to be sensitive to those who are going through really hard times.
Agree.
But I don't think that because others are going through hard times, I don't think that should stop us from making the most of our situation. You know, my boys loved going out and playing in the snow, and they had a lot of fun. My older kid didn't want the snow to go away because he loved going out and playing in it in his raincoat and his cotton gloves and and his pajama pants. Even though we weren't prepared for it, we tried to make the best of it instead of kind of moping and saying, oh, this stinks, we weren't prepared. And then me and my husband and my in-laws, we loved looking at like the funny memes and the funny TikTok videos, and it just made us laugh and keep it light. And I think that's great. I think that's totally great to do, as long as you don't disregard that people need help and there are people suffering. I think it's still great to find the good.
I agree.
I love that, Maddie. What were some other things that you guys did to find the good? Like, we ended up with candlelight dinners, which was kind of magical, even though it wasn't something that we really wanted to be doing, but that was cool. Or games by candlelight. We did a lot of candles because we wanted to try to keep the house warmer, so we didn't use our flashlights as much, and the candles at least provided a little heat. Not a ton, but something. Let's go Roselle first, and then Melissa.
Yeah.
Sorry. So we did sledding. We had one sled, and we're lucky our backyard has a little incline. So we did that. We did the painting with the snow. My daughter thought it was snow cones, so she started to eat it. I'm like, we're not eating this. So what else we did? Dinner by candlelight. So it was like Maddie said, you have to find the joy and humor in it, because with young kids, we can freak them out and make them scared. We just have to, make it fun. And so we enjoyed doing that together.
What about you, Melissa?
My kids are really young, so they really didn't understand what's going on. It is a little confusing right now because we're kind of in between homes. Like, we come to our house during the day, but we can't sleep here, so we go to the hotel at night. And so it's a little confusing that way. But you were saying, what are some things that kind of helped you get through it? And for me, it's perspective. So in our situation, like I said, our part of our unit flooded, and so we're not able to stay here. But not too far from where we live is another large unit that caught on fire, and 62 units were destroyed, like completely destroyed. And it's, I'm like, yes, my situation sucks. Like, we're going on 3 weeks, not being able to like sleep in our apartment, but to have everything gone like forever. So we were able to take some things over there, like blankets and shampoo and phone chargers, and, being able to provide a little bit of service, once the roads were safe to drive, to those individuals suffering. And, the news isn't talking about what happened anymore. It's like not something, but you still have people like that who their lives are completely changed forever, and they don't have a home to go back to, or are still living at hotels and things. And so I think that really helped me, was just, yes, my house flooded, but at least it didn't catch on fire. But like Maddie said, I think humor was a really big thing for me. I liked seeing the funny memes. Like, I didn't get offended. Someone's always going to get offended no matter what. But I think it's important to find, like everyone was saying, like the joy when you can, or the humorous parts of bad situations.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I also love that you brought up service, because that was something that really got me through too, was just trying to see how I could help other people around me, or seeing the kind acts of service that I saw other people doing for other people. It just made you feel good in all the mess, that something positive was coming from all of it. But
yeah, like people are still so good. Like, we had strangers, like, people were DMing me, like, what can I do? Like, people from different states, what can I shop for? Neighbors that I've never even met, like, hey, come over, have a play date with my kids. They can stay, do laundry and all that stuff. Just like, I was able to really see, because I'm a native California person, but I was really able to see that Southern hospitality extended to me, that people were going out of their way and helping each other out, like everybody was trying to just do the best that they can and help when they could.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Well, let's go around, since we're running out of time here, and I just want everybody to share their handles and their blogs one more time, so everybody can know where to find you now that we've been chatting about this. And I'm so glad you would all spend some time with me, because I just think this is such a good part of our Dallas history, is what we've gone through, and our family history and personal experiences. And I know I'll never be the same after this experience, of between the tender mercies that happened and the struggles. And there were so many opportunities of growth through this whole experience. So let's go through. Let's start. Roselle, you want to start?
All right. So you can find me on Instagram at NI_DFW_family. And my blog is ndfwandbeyond.com.
Yay. Okay, Melissa.
You can find me on Instagram at CasaJackson_, and then my blog is CasaJacksonblog.com. So that's where you can find me.
And Madi.
My Instagram handle is my name. It's Madi M. Scott. Madi's spelled Madi. And my blog is crosswalksandcairns.com.
And then Jamie.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Fly by the Seat of Our Pants. And also the blog is flybytheseatofourpants.com.
And we'll link to all of you guys in the show notes. You want to follow all these amazing, amazing ladies. I just love them. All right.
Thanks, that was awesome.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm so happy I got to introduce you to my friends. They are just so, so wonderful. So go follow them. And I hope that if you enjoyed this episode, you will share this with your friends and give us a little rating and review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts if you have a minute. We would love it so much. Have a wonderful week.